Hello there. Yes, this is Jim the Keys bartender coming to you from Key Largo. Sorry for talking over the music. Uh, I had started the show without plugging in my headphones, so I just had the music playing. I don't know. I hope that played for you guys when I did that. Uh, Today's show is episode 334. We are. Uh, I'm going to address this one as what are we afraid of? What is causing you to be fearful? And one thing I do notice is that there's especially being a bartender, I do come in contact with a lot of people that have things that their personal struggles with certain things, like opening up, being uh, friendly, talking to strangers, uh, opening up themselves. And I've had not a horrible struggle, but it is a struggle to get guests. It's difficult to get someone on when they're concerned about how they're going to be construed and what context they're going to be taken into. And that I can't really put them at ease, because a lot of times I just do it live and I tell them, I say, listen, I try not to step on anybody's toe. I'm not going to, but you know what? It is comedy sometimes, and sometimes something funny happens. If you want to be serious, maybe this isn't necessarily the right venue for you. So I've had difficulty with, it's interesting. I've had an easier time with people that are more pillars, traditional. And I'm doing air quotes, so imagine me holding out my two air quotes. Traditional pillars of the community, let's say. Things like politicians, a friend of mine, Alfonso, from a recovery group I belong to, uh, other bartenders and servers, and a news reporter or two, and friends that I bring on, musicians. But when you get down to things that are more, let's say, I'd have to call it more blue or less mainstream, such as the Lover's Boutique, which is an adult store. When I say adult store, it sells all sorts of things like dildos, vibrators, blow up dolls, all ointments, anal beads, whatever you want it to be, it has it. And originally I set up an interview for them, and then they backed out on it. And then recently they came back a couple months ago, but I haven't really followed it up because they don't seem. I'm I'm a little reluctant chasing down an interview if they're not all in. If someone's not excited about it. And once someone starts sending me questions like, I'm afraid that I may not get portrayed correctly, or things could be taken out of context. There's nothing I can really say about that than other than listen to my other interviews, and there's people that have been happy with that. Now, I've been the guest on several radio shows and interviewed for several newspaper articles and been on 2 podcasts. But here's the kicker. The rest of those, the traditional media, the radio show and the newspaper, they showed up fine. You know, they did, I had like 3 or 4 articles on that. But with the podcast, I did one which was kind of a trivia show for Florida. It was, I'm not going to say the name of it because they didn't air the episode, so I'm not going to promote the show. And they only had like 6 episodes. And it was the guy said it was such a great episode. The guy asked me 3 questions. It was about Florida, but it was almost like Wait, an NPR show called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, where they come up with crazy things that could have happened in Florida, whether it happened in Florida or not, and they'll come up with different scenarios. And I picked, for some reason, there were 3 of them, and I picked the right one in each challenge. And the guy was a little put off by it. I don't understand that because it wasn't like I could cheat about it. Maybe I could have. Maybe I would. He was thinking that I was hitting all the. But I don't do that. I'm a trivia guy, so I mean, after a question's asked and after I thought I had it right and it's wrong, I may check that. But I've never done that in the heat of a question. When I say in the heat of a question, when the question's asked, I don't go and check the answer. I'll just spout what I consider would be, from my knowledge, what the right answer is. And a lot of times it's the wrong answer. That's the interesting thing about it. And this other show, I'm not going to even say that. That guy had me. I had to do a pre-interview. I had to fill out some, 2 pages. And then the show, the day of it, I did an hour and a half. It was on Skype. The connection was during the COVID-19 stay at home kind of, I won't call it orders, but whatever, when everyone was staying at home. And I'm being interviewed. It's going well. And the guy had kind of an agenda. He was a guy that owned a bunch of warehouses. He kind of viewed himself as an entrepreneur. And he had a bunch of other entrepreneurs on his show and authors. And afterwards he found out, like while he was interviewing me, that it wasn't the owner of the restaurant. He seemed a little taken aback that I was just a worker. Maybe I'm not an entrepreneur, but I did have several businesses. It's just something I chose not to pursue. It's not all about, for me, it wasn't all about money. Maybe it should be all about money. So I went back. I had that interview with the guy. He was on the West Coast, and we had to get this back and forth. And, that was like 4 months ago. They never put that episode on, probably because I didn't necessarily agree with the guy's worldview. He was thinking about, how entrepreneurship is the pinnacle of human endeavors, which it's up there in human endeavors, entrepreneurship, but it's not the pinnacle, So I did that. Now I'm reluctant when someone says I want to go on a show. It's sometimes to waste your time on a show. When I do it, when I have someone on a show, a lot of times it's live. So I don't worry. They're worried about me editing it and doing post-editing, cutting things down. The only thing that would happen was probably a commercial cut in between a whole conversation, if there is. But I wouldn't necessarily, I've never edited anything other than I've deleted whole shows that I thought were poor. Poorer than... I know, Jim, what is the bar for a bar? Well, if you can't hear me, if there's a lot of static, it's really bad and it's reprehensible, I'll delete the show, and I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. It's not like destroying a painting, because it's not, I don't consider it on the same thing. I know what I do. I'm self-aware. I'm self-aware of what what I'm doing, the size of my audience, and who I'm speaking to. And I am live right now, so if you are interested, I'm going to keep on spouting this number. Someday someone's going to call. The number is 407-392-4563. It's 407-392-4563. I use Skype, and what happens is it's not a visual one, obviously, because we're a podcast. I don't do a live video feed, and not that, and I talked about my reasoning for that. I don't do a lot of video because I want it to be mainly an audio experience, even though I'm not the perfect audio experience that you want. But and maybe it actually could probably be a little funnier if there was a picture of it, because I'm told that my reactions, unbeknownst to me, are funny, but I don't want it to be about that. And once again, that phone number is 407-392-4563. And if you are listening on the Spreaker app, that's the service that I use to podcast with, you can, if you're listening live, you can always go on the chat feature and send in a question. I've had people ask me questions otherwise that off the air, and they've sent in text. So one of the things that I wanted to know, people to know, is that as a guest, I know pretty much what I'm going to ask, and I let them know what I'm going to ask in general. It's not a news program. I'm not trying to do a got you thing. There are other venues and listening sources, other podcasts for news and revelation. This isn't revelation. This is entertainment. I try to do a little education sometimes with that. And so the guest, it's almost like Schrodinger's cat. We know you have a guest, and Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment where a cat's in a box and it exists both as dead and alive at the same time. And you don't know until you open up the box. Same thing goes with a guest. It's going to be an interview. There's going to be questions asked. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, but until the interview occurs, we really don't know what's going to happen. You could. I'm not controlling in your answer. I gave you the spirit of the questions I would ask, but I don't know what the reaction of some of your questions I might ask, and I hope that doesn't throw them off. But that's pretty much it. And the guest thing, I've always been thinking I'm going to get someone interesting on, different kind of people. But, down here in the Keys, you think there's a lot of interesting people down here, and there are. There are a lot of interesting people down here, but I don't think the uniqueness is different than other people being unique from other places. So if there's 8,000 people in Key Largo that reside here full time, there's 8,000 different stories, and the same percentage of people that are very eccentric and people that are less eccentric, people that adhere to more the norms. So you might be hearing my dog barking in the background. I guess that means there's a cat walking by. And see how I can't control anything like that, but luckily I have the headphone on, and if I was using a mic, it would have been popping off like crazy. So we're going to move on past guests. I had some friends in last night, Karen and Scott. Once again, yesterday or 2 days ago on episode 333, I sent out a hello to Denise in Ohio. And Denise, I guess we had your niece there, Scott and Karen's daughter, and her two daughters at the restaurant I work at. And it was interesting. We got in a conversation with the young girls. I wasn't asked for advice for some reason because Scott and Karen are friends of mine. I wanted to tell the two young ladies. One of the young ladies was partying with her grandparents, and they were making fun of her the day before. And I said, "Oh, were there pictures taken?" And they go, "Oh yeah, someone sent pictures and all that stuff." And I said, that is a burden that generation, what's it called, Generation Z, or millennials, or ones that were born near and around 2000, and you got Generation Z or X and stuff like that. But if you we've talked about this on different shows. I told the young girls, I say, listen, it is virtually impossible to be anonymous nowadays. Your whole life is documented. Whenever you're doing something fun, interesting, if you're not in control of your wits or then that happens when you're drinking. And one of the girls was 15, the other was 21. So the 21-year-old was imbibing. I said to him, listen, don't. I didn't go into details about what I would tell my daughter about never sending something to somebody that you wouldn't want spread around, because there's virtually nobody has that kind of. I think what happened is, used to be, if you had some information from someone, let's say it's a photo from a woman she sent you some pictures and stuff like that. In the old days, it would have to be real pictures. Would be on, could be generally a lot of times it was on an Instamatic or one of those Polaroids, and because you could get flag going to the Photomat, stuff like that. And the advent of you know, storage, personal storage for electronic pictures when they started using cameras, digital photography. Now you don't have to get it developed. You could print the picture off at home, or who prints pictures anymore? They pretty much store it and distribute it. So when someone is, and we can go through all the scenarios of sending a picture. I had a friend in college who used to take pictures of all his girlfriends in intimate situations, very revealing, and the pictures were more akin to Hustler, not Playboy. They weren't glamour shots; they were beaver shots, and he would get him. He would get him to take pictures with him, and then he would show them to all his friends, and that's how I guess he dealt with the girl. And I thought for a second, I go, "Wow, that's kind of a," and this is just my opinion. They just felt like a betrayal of trust because you probably convinced them. I mean, it would be interesting if he showed the girl that the pictures he took the pictures of the other girls he take and show them to her, and then she could probably put in her head, oh yeah, well, this is probably going to happen to me. But I had seen pictures of girls that I knew really well with that, and yes, I looked. I was curious when he said I got some pictures, and then I saw it, but I only saw it that one time because I knew he never showed it to me before, and I was like, wow, I hope he never dates anybody I'm really close with, or and I guess maybe I hope he stopped doing that. That's not that's just not what it is. But nowadays, it's probably the norm where people get photos and they spread them out. They had this, they have these websites for people where they, they show ex-girlfriends' pictures and share them into there and stuff like that. And I think that's a betrayal of trust. And I didn't mention that in the conversation with this girl. So I said, what I pretty much said, is whatever you do on social media exists forever. Exist forever. So you might as well go and do an engraving on the side of Mount Rushmore. Whatever you're going to say, engrave it in stone, because it's going to be there. So you got to be careful. So whenever you say something, and I just purposely went there because these weren't my daughters. I didn't want to get into the more personal things about it. I said, whatever you say, you better be firmly believe that you're always going to believe in this, and whatever you say. Like when I say something political, like I'm not a fan at all of this president, and I firmly believe that. Now, if I was one of those wishy-washy people, you go, I don't know this, which is fine, and I'm sorry for accusing me of wishy-washy, but I feel it's important. I can say these things, and I can feel that years from now I'll be able to stand by it. And the things I've said, sometimes they were harsh, but they're pretty much what I believed in my heart. So I'm not ashamed of it. But as a young person, you got to be really careful, because it's going to be there, and your employer's going to find this out and things like that. And I told him, I said, and then I went into further. I said, think about it. When I was a kid in the mid-'70s, when I was a young teenager in the mid-'70s, the '80s, in order to take a picture, usually at night when some of the bad things happened, you had to have a flash, and you'd see that. There was very little, there's some people had equipment to do that, but it wasn't commonly used. So at nighttime, you were pretty safe. Whatever you did, they didn't see anything. There were video cameras, but they were the size of televisions. They were huge. It was like a small travel suitcase you put on your shoulder when they started rolling those things. Just think of that with that Bob Crane thing where he did VHS. He used to make videos with his buddies, sex videos with his buddies and stuff like that. But that was like in the 70s, that was a new technology. A lot of people didn't have it. Cameras were flash, there were Instamatics, there were Polaroids and things like that. And you pretty much had to stop, otherwise it would be blurry. There wasn't where you control the picture. Someone come up with 35. You had a photojournalist come up with a 35 millimeter camera. You'd kind of be put off, stand aside. You'd see, oh, we're going to have some pictures taken. But nowadays, and it's hard for you to visualize this, but no, it's not hard for you to visualize. Just think about it. Look at your phone. Look at your phone right now. How hard is it for you to pick it up and take a picture? How quick? Some people are quicker than others. Just remember, like in the Old West, there were some people that took a while to bring their guns out, and the ones that are gunfighters that were like lightning quick. Well, there's people like that with cameras, and they're surreptitious. And they use this with all these smartphones things. They could record, they could do video, do anything. And the cameras are so much better now. There's low light cameras where you could take it. There's on the internet, there's a lot of adult videos where people are unbeknownst to them, do they know that the pictures are being preserved. If there was going to be, that there are pictures, they don't know. So just think of that, how easy it is now. I remember going past one when I was in my late teens. I go past a strip club in Philadelphia, and it says no photography, no flash photography. I'm like, who the fuck was back then? Taking a camera to a strip club was like crazy. It's crazy you had to put that on there. That was a crazy idea that you had to tell people not to do that. It's like telling people, hey, you're going to a restaurant, no live ammunition, no hand grenades, no bazookas, no flamethrowers, because people didn't bring them. That's just one of those things. They don't bring hand grenades to it. But commonplace when that thing, it's funny because that place eventually became a regular bar in Philadelphia. The one I was talking about, it was near a street. It was Frankfurt and Welsh Road, about a block north on Frankfurt Avenue, and you would see. It's funny, they've disappeared, and now you don't see at these gentleman clubs. You don't see people saying that everyone has their phone with them. Everyone has their phone. Who's to stop you from a place, taking? I never had a phone taken away from me when I go to a gentleman's club. Who's to stop anybody taking a picture or something like that? There's no discretion or secrecy right now. That's what I'm suggesting. So I was talking to these two young women. I said, there's nothing you do if you do it repeatedly, going to be a secret. And then I was talking to the young woman who was 21 and who wasn't, the parents came and grandparents, her mother was there and her grandparents were there, and she didn't have a drink because she, had a little extra to drink the night before. And I said to her, it's not like none of these people did it. And I'm talking to the parents, her mother, and they may make you feel embarrassed, but they've all done it. They've all done it. They've been in the same situation you've been in. But the thing is, eventually, one day, you're going to want to stop doing that. And I said that was my problem. I didn't stop doing that thing where I would regret, and it happened more often than not. And that was funny. That came from out of my heart. And I was just thinking, sometimes I'm talking to someone and I think, this is important to me. And it's something I'm thinking out myself, a way to explain to myself, why did I come to this point where I can't drink anymore? It's because I was drinking like a 21-year-old. Maybe not doing the shots and stuff like that, which I was over the years, I've saw I'm not doing shots, but it didn't stop me from drinking hard liquor and beer. So I just didn't have it. I had no control over it. Meaning that's what I did. That's what I liked. That's what I told myself what I liked. I like to have, drink my bourbon neat with a beer on the side. And now what I tell myself is like I don't drink any of it, not because, yeah, people say, what, you mean you can't have one drink? Yeah, I can have one drink. One day I won't. And that's the worst thing in the world. It doesn't make all those other times where I had one drink special. I know that in the near future, there's going to be another time where I'm just going to be embarrassed by my behavior or my condition. So, and I said, but many people, like I was telling a young girl, I said, "Go have a good time. Be careful, don't overdo it. Always have a friend around." That's the advice again. Always have a trust friend. Oh, I have a Florida call, but ignore. Okay, I'll check this number. I'll call them back. But where was that? I was thinking about how technology changes everything. It changes the way we do things and how we react to things and just society as a whole. I mean, there's like when there was a beautiful young woman who was getting on a plane, and when she got on the plane, this was about 5 years ago, I think, if I remember correctly. And she was working for a company. She was going to South Africa, I think, on a business trip or vacation. But what she said, she tweeted was, I am heading to Africa right now. Hope I don't get AIDS. Oh, forget about it. I'm white, so I'm not going to get AIDS. So she put that out there. And she had a decent amount of followers. But it was so... It had inflamed people to say, hey, listen, it was somewhat, I guess the woman was trying to make an attempt at humor. But by the time she landed, it had blown up. It had blown up. And she had lost her job. She had, I think I'm pretty sure and I'm remembering 5 years back that she was like, oh, and we all know these stories. That you go and say it. So think about it before. People do things really incredible. Like I never understand trophy hunters when they get their pictures taken and go out, really knowing that people, when you see a bull elephant with the ivory tusk and some guy, sitting with his big ass elephant gun next to the dead beautiful animal. I'm thinking, why now would you want to put that thing out there, have it taken, and have it put on there? Why? That's got to be something you want personal. You don't want to put it out there for everyone because it's inflammatory. It's just like if someone said, I don't believe in the artist that dipped the crucifix in urine. And this was over 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And that was his thing, his commentary on religion. Yeah, it was art, but why in the hell? I mean, okay, art itself is supposed to be controversial, so I understand that. But why? I mean, in that case, with the crucifix going into the bodily fluids, yeah, they knew that. That's exactly what they wanted. I don't think that people that are bounty hunters, trophy hunters, are looking for people to call them assholes or idiots or horrible people, unless that's gotta be, I mean, that in itself, if you put a picture out there and then expect more than a considerable amount of people, let's say more than a considerable, maybe even a majority of people look at you with disgust, there's something wrong with you if that's the illicit response you're going to have. Now, that's sometimes that's how change happens. But I think that's kind of a retrograde thing, the behavior. Trophy hunting of these animals that are endangered, and and that they're caught on these game farms, these wild game farms in Africa, where they go in there and they send somebody, and these animals don't really travel in herds and stuff like that. They just bring them out and they shoot them. That's the thing. Just so you can get the kill. Always want to kill. That's what a hunter says. I always want to kill a bull elephant. I want to kill a giraffe. Why the fuck will you want to kill a giraffe? When has a giraffe? I mean, what's the worst thing that a giraffe's ever done? Or one of these wildebeest. Well, I mean, a Cape buffalo is a very dangerous animal and things like that. But you're going out seeking something like that. It's like, I don't go out. The shark is very deadly. I don't go out seeking a great white shark to kill. Even though I know there's a very good chance if I came up against a great white shark and it was hungry, I'd be done. But I just don't go in the water where they are now. So we don't need to, hold off their great white hunter. We don't need to kill all the endangered animals right now. I want to leave it at that. I leave that as that, and this is my show. It's my opinion. I do believe that hunting has its good forest management and population management principles, like deer hunting. In some of these states, they issue a certain amount of licenses and tell you what kind of buck you can take, whether you can take a buck or a doe, and things like that. That's to keep the balance and keep the herd healthy and keep the population healthy, so they can have a sustained. But it's funny when it comes down to things like extinct creatures, people on the endangered list. When they said, well, our fees that we pay for the hunting provide for the protections to have these animals, to keep them around. If it wasn't for us, they may be extinct. That may be the case, but then again, maybe a photo safari would probably be the best way to go, and photo hunting and stuff like that to keep a healthy population instead of just killing one. Unless you're going to eat the whole thing, I would kind of you get a little bit of your respect back if you ate the whole animal, but they don't do that. They just take it as a trophy. Well, it's 33 minutes into the show. I'd like to thank all the listeners from any place. And I'm always amazed at where these listeners come from and what they do. I'd like to thank my listeners in India. I'd like to thank my listeners in the Russian Federation. I wish some of you would call or send me an email. My email address is jim@keysbartender.com, where with any questions or inquiries, they don't have to be on the air. We used to have some listeners in Iran. I really missed that. I was wondering why they would have, if that person would come back. I used to do a little shout out to them, when like that. And I knew that was kind of culturally insensitive, but it's not that bad. Come on. It's, you could say almost anything. And I try not to be super offensive. And if it is, it wasn't intentional. I'd like to thank my listeners in Chicago, Washington, D.C., Boston, Philadelphia, Miami, all of Florida, Tavernier, Key Largo, Key West, Marathon. I don't have any listeners in Marathon. I got to start promoting down in Marathon. The weather is great here. You can come on down. There's a time of year to come down. There are people that they're not going to be having Fantasy Fest, at least a formal Fantasy Fest, but they will have people dressed up in whatever costumes they're going to wear, and it's more so than normal. You like to dress up like costumes and stuff like that down here, and maybe they'll do something with the mask and all that stuff. Who knows? Make it interesting. And also, if you haven't voted yet, please vote. I do realize that most of my listeners are the ones in the United States here probably are getting ready to vote. I hope they do. And just do it. Do it. Even if you're not going to vote the way I would like you to vote. Just vote. Participate right now. Do you some good. And if you don't participate, don't complain. And if you like the show, please share it with your friends. This is Jim the Keys Bartender signing out. I'd like to thank you for listening. Bye.